reflect those of the staff and management of KWAM. Welcome to the Variety Hour, where local leaders talk Memphis.
Listen to you move your mouth. I bet you come from way down south. Now don't tell me, let me guess, you from the town that I love best. Talk Memphis, I wish you would. Talk Memphis, you sound so good. Talk Memphis, high on the bluff. I swear I can't get enough listening to you talk that stuff. Talk Memphis, oh yeah, talk Memphis.
This is the Memphis Real Estate Hour with your host, Dean Harris, on KWAM. And now, here's your host, Dean Harris.
All right, good morning, everybody. I am your host, Dean Harris. You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour. I'm with CrestCore Realty over on Summer Avenue, and I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening this morning. If you're tuning in at FM 107.9, AM 990, or online at KWAM990.com, I appreciate that. Also want to welcome our Facebook Live listeners. We appreciate you coming in through your telephone, right? The Memphis Real Estate Hour is an investment real estate show that will give you information to move into the investment world. I will have local and national professionals in our field on the show, and we're talking everything about investing, from financing to how to purchase a home and how to get some of your lending in order. Remind you every single show that I am an investor. So if you have that old home that you need to sell quickly, or if you know someone that has that old home they need to sell quickly, give me a call or text at 901-619-6170, and I'll make you a cash offer on that home. So I don't care what shape the home is in, if it's burned or fallen down or whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter to me. The worse the better. Just give me a call again. It's 901-619-6170, and I'll be happy to get that home moved for you. Facebook Live, we mentioned at the very beginning of the show, so we're live on Facebook. You guys tune in to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on Facebook, and you can watch the show. We've got a free giveaway we're doing. It's a $100 Visa gift card. So we'll have a trivia question at the bottom of the hour, and we will see who the first one to answer that question on the air is. So it'll be a free Visa gift card, $100, all thanks to CrestCore Realty. Last week on the show, Dan Butler and I discussed the 5 C's of credit: character, capacity, capital, collateral, and condition. So if you have questions about those, that was a great show. He gave out a lot of good detail from the credit perspective, what you're going to need to look at when you go to a bank and you ask to borrow money. So character, capacity, capital, collateral, and condition. So tune in, or you can go, like I said, to the Facebook page, watch that show from last week. It's on there. We'd love to hear your comments. On today's show, we've got the investment of the week. I'll give you that here shortly. I've got a 6-house package that I received this week that I'm going to put out on the air here. So get your pens and paper ready if you want some free money. Got to spend a little money, but it's free. Guest today, I've got the CEO of the Daily News and Chandler Reports, and Eric Barnes, and Business Development Manager Wendy Greenlaw. You guys have heard Wendy on the show before. So we're happy to have her and Eric in the studio this morning, which should be some good topics, some good information on our city. We'll do that trivia question at the bottom of the hour. And then if you've got any questions for myself or for Eric or for even Wendy, go ahead and go to the Memphis Real Estate Hour Facebook page, and you can ask any questions you've got there. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and give you the investment of the week. So if you guys will get your pens out, get your paper, anything that you need to write down. Maybe you could just remember this. If so, you're better than me. So here we go. I've got 6 properties. The first one is 3541 Brookmead Street. I'm going to go through these pretty quick. So if you've got questions, let me reset that. I'm going to go through them pretty quick this morning. If you've got questions, you can call or email, or just ask something on the Facebook page, the live feed this morning. So here we go. 3541 Brookmead Street. This is in Fraser, 38127. It's a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. It rents for $725. 2887 Letrick Cove. Hadn't heard of that one yet. 38127. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. This one rents for $650. 3098 Bluffdale Street. This is in my favorite zip code, 38118. It's a 3.2, and it also rents for $700. And then I've got 3 duplexes here. North Holmes, 14 and 16 North Holmes, duplex, 38111. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath on each side. This one is a $1,000 rental. And then I've got 1244 and 1246 East Parkway, 38114. This is also a 2-bedroom, 1 bath on each side, and it's getting $1,300 in rent. And then I've got one out in Cordova, 8297 Shallow Glen Trail. It's a 4.3, and this one's getting $1,100 a month. So, guys, that's the total package. It's getting a gross rent of $65,700 a year. The seller is asking $449,900. I know this is a little bit bigger package. He will split this up a little bit. So if you've got questions, you want me to repeat this or email it to you or whatever I need to do, just give me a call, 901-619-6170, or you can email me at dean@crestcore.com, and I'll be happy to shoot this over to you. All right, we're going to take a real short break, and then I'm going to come back. I'm going to have the CEO of the Daily News and Chandler Reports, Eric Barnes, on the show. And Wendy Greenlaw is the business development manager there with Chandler Reports, and we're going to have her on. You guys are used to hearing from Wendy and all that good information she gives us. So we'll take a real quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on KWAM. We'll be right back after this.
Is it a good time to buy or refi? Is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? Are interest rates going sky high soon? Hi, I'm Ludi Calloway, the mortgage lady at iBank Mortgage. I tell my customers to ask questions, get answers. So join me every Monday morning at 8, and I will tell you what's going on in today's still changing mortgage world. Remember, most people think about mortgages a few times in their lives. I think about them every single day. Tune in Mondays at 8.
Investors or buyers, if you're looking for the best customer service and most competitive rates on a home loan, come to Brighton Bank. They offer a quick approval process, fast closing, and they even finance 85% of purchase price in most cases. At Brighton Bank, they work with every kind of loan, VA, FHA, USDA programs, traditional conventional financing programs, long-term fixed financial, and bridge loans made easy. When it comes to home loans, they mean business. Call them today, 901-758-1740. That's Brighton Bank at 901-758-1740.
Griffin, Clift, Everton, and Mashmeyer, PLLC, is a full-service law firm with over 50 years of experience in the Memphis area. Real estate closings have continued to be the forefront of their law practice, which include residential, commercial, and development real estate transactions, drafting and negotiation of real estate contracts and leases, business information, preparation of wills, probate, and estate planning. Their firm represents a number of builders, developers, investors, and local lending institutions, and is approved to close transactions for most local banks and mortgage companies. In addition, they offer title search, title examination services, and title insurance through several well-established title insurance companies in the Memphis area, as well as Tennessee and Mississippi. They strive to offer services in a prompt and timely fashion while advising and representing clients in a zealous and professional manner. Should their offered services be of need, please contact William N. Griffin Jr. or any of their attorneys at 901-752-1133. They can also be found online at www.gcemlaw.com or on Facebook.
Now, here's Mid-South weather from News Channel 3's Severe Weather Center. Brought to you by the Crescent Club, hosting the people and ideas that moved Memphis forward for nearly 30 years. Poplar and I-240. Call for a free tour at 901-684-1010.
Cloudy and warm this afternoon with highs in the mid-80s and light winds out of the east. Isolated showers can't be ruled out. We're near 70 overnight and into the lower 80s with increasing rain chances as Harvey makes its approach by the end of the week. Smith Imports with more than 125 pre-owned Mercedes, all with remaining factory warranty. Sales, service, great financing rates, low prices, high quality since 1985. SmithImports.com. I'm News Channel 3's Todd Demers on The Voice, FM 107.9 and AM 990.
You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on KWAM. And now, here's your host, Dean Harris.
All right, welcome back to the Memphis Real Estate Hour. I'm your host, Dean Harris, and I'm excited to dive right into our show topic and guest today. I've got Eric Barnes. He's the CEO of the Daily News and Chandler Reports. Eric, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I've got Wendy Greenlaw in here as well. She is the business development manager over at Chandler Reports, and we have had her on many a time. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So welcome to the show, guys. Wendy, I just want to start off how we traditionally do and let you give us kind of our Memphis Market Watch, our recap, yeah. So tell us what's going on today.
Sure. So year to date, when I say that, that's through the end of July. We don't have our August figures out yet as the month hasn't closed. But year to date, total number of units are up 9%. Average price is up 7% from last year. So total home sales revenue is up 13%.
So the total number... We got a trivia question coming up. So
total sales revenue is up 13%.
Total revenue sales up 13%. All right.
And this is the highest we've seen since 2007 at this point in the year.
That's great.
So,
good news.
We're still a ways off from 2007 figures. But still have low inventories. You know, I looked at the MAR data. The inventory bumped up May to July as we'd expect to see in the summer months. But it's still historically low. So it'll be, interesting to see in the next few months how we end the year as far as inventory and pricing goes. Investor purchases down this year. So last year they made up about a quarter of all home sales. This year it's down to 21% of all home sales are investor purchases. Still over 40% of those are out-of-town buyers. And I took a look at the zip codes, and most of the zip codes are down as far as investor purchases. There's 3 that have had little significant, increases. 38115, which is Hickory Hill North, is up. Fraser 38127, and then this one was kind of interesting, 38117.
Colonial Hill or Colonial Acres area?
We call it East Central Poplar Perkins.
And that's up for investors?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was interesting. And then average prices are up, as we would expect, 3% year to date to about $70,000 on investor purchases.
Let me back up. I'm stuck on the 117. What's the average sales price over there for those? Do you have that, or am I stumping you already?
It's
you can't
90,000.
You're telling me. I've tried it. 90,000.
90,000. So that's pretty high.
That is high. Okay.
It's well above the average.
Okay. 117. Oh, that's great numbers. And 115 is somewhere where I sell. A lot of my investors will buy over there. It's actually becoming more and more.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, so total home sales in 3115 are up 40% this year. From last. That's high.
That makes a lot of sense.
115 is what?
Hickory Hill North.
Kirby, that area over there. A lot of 3.2s, 1,300 square feet, 1,500 square feet that are selling for 55 and 60 grand that'll rent for $900.
Well, the average price there's over 70, and it's up 8% from last year on their average price.
So see, there's some turnkey providers that are
selling to
out
of town.
That are moving in over there. See, I don't do turnkey prices with my clients, but those are over there 75, 80 grand renting for 950 to 1,000. That's turnkey pricing.
Can I ask a dumb question? When you're renting these houses, these are 1-year leases, these are month to month, these are 6 month. I mean, what's the typical?
Well, each individual owner will set their standard. If it's a CrestCore standard, we always demand or require a 12-month lease. If you sign on for 24 months, sometimes you can get your rent a little bit lower, $20 or something. But the typical lease time frame is 12 months. If you don't renew, they'll allow you to go month to month.
And one more dumb question. What kind of credit scores? Is it all over the map?
It's all over the map. It's a little bit different process to vet a tenant for a rental versus buying a house or a car.
Sure.
So there's a little bit different standards, but there is a vetting process. I don't want to tell you an exact number, but CrestCore, the management department over there. We've got a pretty stringent one, and a lot of management companies do because they realize if they don't, it's their headache that they're going to have to deal with.
And there's just plenty of demand for all this, obviously. I mean, this is not a bubble of all these investor purchases. They're
the tenants or the houses or
the
both?
Tenants.
Yeah,
let's start with the tenants. Yeah.
Tenants are plenty. I attribute it to FedEx, our distribution here. You know, there's a lot of workers over at the airport area. That's why I love 38118 to start clients off in. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-bath homes over there that get $800 in rent easy. And we don't have, you know, knocking on some wood, none of my clients are having any trouble getting tenants in some of these areas that I'm putting them in. Now, if you go up to some other areas, it can be challenging to get tenants because of the crime and that sort of thing. But I try to, you know, stay away from selling in those specific, because then it just makes my job harder as well. Right. You know, I'm trying to, you know, get these houses occupied and sell more. So I'm going to these areas where they're selling. And 38118, 115, 116, that South Memphis area down there has always been a good one. What else you got for us?
So new home sales, which we talk about every time I come on, but the second quarter, they ended at an average price over $350,000 on average, the highest on record. So we're continuing to see those. What do
you, and we'll take a little more time with this morning, what do you attribute that to? I mean, I could tell you, but.
Well, it's inventory. You have larger homes. You have more custom homes. That's what I attribute it to. What do you attribute it to?
There's no, if builders are going to build and they have a limited amount of lots, and they're going to try to maximize, you know, what their profitability on them. And I started off in new construction in 2002, 2001. Selling new construction when it was fun to sell new construction, and our pricing point there was 150 to 210, and we were they were just going.
Yeah, Eric and I were talking about that yesterday. Is that you can't really find a new home in that price range, and the ones that are building in that price range are selling to out of town buyers. So
Arlington's full of them,
right? So as
all that new construction,
new homeowners that want to get into
I even know an agent here that is marketing new construction to investors.
Right. That's what,
and I had heard that. I can't remember what show it was on, but I heard that nationally, that some of these big, you know, national firms, the public companies that were buying up all the rental homes, are now commissioning the construction of modestly priced homes, you know, to put immediately into the rental market.
Whole neighborhoods. I mean, like, they're developing.
Here in Memphis?
Oh, yeah.
There's whole section. Yeah, you can go down one street and see that it's all investor owned.
Mm-hmm. They're going into these areas now, and they're pre-selling them. So not even are they just putting them up and hoping an investor buys them. They're going to investors and saying, hey, we've got 25 lots here. How many of these do you want? Because they can build them and sell them for 110 and 20 grand and get 13 and 1400 in rent for them. And to a national investor, that's a good number.
Yeah. And when they do that, do they, again, I'm full of questions today, do they sell them and the investor takes on all the management and the renting, or does that company that built them retain, you know, say, hey, we'll continue to manage it for you?
It's almost part of the deal in most cases. I don't want to quote this one guy, that's why I won't give his name out, but I believe in their situation, when you sign the contract to buy the home, you also agree to 2 years of management.
Okay.
So they're getting you on both ends. They're finding you the home, the land, they're building, you're waiting, you're closing. They get a tenant for you, and you're committed to 2 years at least of management with them. I just wonder, like, and I'm curious of y'all's perspective on this. I'm just wondering, after, you know, when they are ready to sell, who buys and what does that turn into? Because I know if I'm a homeowner and I'm going into one of these areas and I know that it's full of tenants, I'm likely not going to buy there.
Right.
So then prices are going to drop to sell them, or it's just going to continue to get investors involved with it. It just, we've talked before, you and I have, about some concerns of this. That if I have a concern, that is it. The whole community is a rental community.
That's a lot of people's concern.
That's the concern.
And then existing neighborhoods that people are living in that have just been taken over by investors, where they're knocking on the door and buying people's homes for cash.
Yeah, that's happening.
But even in the ones we've analyzed, and one of our coworkers has that situation going on in her neighborhood, the values are still going way up.
Because they are for
them.
now.
Yeah.
Because they're still finding investors. I mean, there's one thing I've learned over the last 3 years when CrestCore started to push nationally, is there are so many people on a national level that want to be here, investing here. That's what I mean by that.
More people,
yes. I mean, it's like you could stop and call a different city and start marketing them, and it's like a whole fresh new group of people that have no idea what's going on in Memphis, and you can resell the entire plan to them. That's what they're doing. Yeah. It's crazy.
I've read nationally. I remember when we did Chandler Reports did various seminars early after the financial crisis and all this investor purchase and rentals. We were talking about the big hedge funds and some of the big national companies, and people would raise a lot of concern that, okay, that hedge fund owns 500, 100, 1,000 homes, but at some point they're going to want an exit strategy and they're just going to dump all those homes on the market. I'm curious if people are still worried about that, and it seems like it's less so. And what I read nationally, the big companies are actually showing these are viable, ongoing businesses. They're not just investments of opportunity on the back of the financial crisis, but these are real businesses that Wall Street's interested in for the long term.
Yes,
which is a good thing probably because it makes it less likely that some big hedge fund says we're just dumping these 1,000 homes.
That's
we
right.
Don't really care.
And they're doing their homework. These are educated. This is an educated process, so they know coming into Memphis, this is not an enormous appreciation market. You're not going to buy a house for 120 and 3 years later it's worth 165. That doesn't happen here. Pockets could happen like that, but overall it doesn't happen. So when they come here, they know the process of, okay, this is a cash flow, this is long term. I'm less worried about the word dumping property off just for 80 cents on the dollar just to move. It could happen, I guess, but I don't see it because their sales pitch and their conversations with these guys are, this is cash flow, this is long haul, 10 years plus type of thing. Now, will they all do that? I have no idea, but that's what I preach. Like when I talk to a client on the phone, and when we talk about even in the $50,000 and $60,000, $70,000 range, we're not talking about, oh, well, what will this be worth in 3 years? We're talking about keeping our maintenance low, keeping the cash flow high, and that sort of thing. Yeah. It's great. All right, guys, we're live in the studio with Eric Barnes and Wendy Greenlaw with Chandler Reports and the Daily News. Wendy, what else you got going for us?
Do we want to jump into hedge funds?
Yeah, let's do it. I mean,
Okay.
because I think it's becoming a bigger part of our market. Yeah, we should.
Okay. So Eric had asked me a while ago to pull a report of hedge funds and activity and try and figure out how many parcels they actually own. So the three top hedge funds we have here in Memphis is CSMA BLT, which is managed out of New York City by, and I'm going to probably say this wrong, Cerberus Capital Management.
Okay.
Okay, have you heard of them? CSMA? No. They purchased all of the building, land, and technology properties. Remember that big national sale? They purchased 4,200 properties. Over 1,000 of them were here in Memphis, and that was back in 2015.
Is it Cerberus?
Cerberus.
Yeah, they're huge.
I always say it wrong.
Yeah,
okay.
That's all right.
So they own...
you still have a job.
Right, this doesn't make me nervous.
That's good.
So they own roughly 1,200 properties here, and they are the most active investor this year, purchasing properties. And I had a total for how much they purchased this year. They purchased 135 this year. And one thing I noticed about them is they have got another company, CSMA, something else that they've gotten an LLC, and they have sold 12 properties to this other firm, and these are properties, when I researched a handful of them, are boarded up, vacant properties, and then they sold them off to a local investor for half the price that they sold it to them, and then the local investor's taking out a loan and renovating the property, selling it to an out-of-town investor.
It's just a cycle.
So, yeah, I don't know if they're doing that for write-off purposes.
No, it sounds like from the beginning, the first part of that sounds like they're trying to trim the fat on a bigger portfolio.
Right.
Like they want to get the bad ones off.
I know. Why wouldn't they just quit claim it to some other? They're selling them to this other named CSMA something.
I don't know why. That's probably above my pay grade on why they're selling it versus.
That's what I'm thinking. Like a write-off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Has to be because they can say, "Hey, we took a loss." That's probably it.
So 3 of the properties that they were, getting out of their portfolio, they had tax liens on, so they weren't managed properly. They were having issues with. So I'm assuming they're looking at their portfolio continually and saying, "Hey, we need to offload these properties. We can't manage them. We can't take care of them. We can't renovate them. Put them back into the
my investors do market." That too. I have a client that's in the 40 to 50 range, because he sells off underperforming property. So, if the kind of rule of thumb is if you go 3 years and you're in the red on something, just give it up.
Right.
It's not happening. Wait a year and a half. Give it some time. Do some corrections. Make some corrections. But if you're pushing the 3rd year in a row in the red, see you later. Yeah, run from it. No matter what because I tell people every day, listen, I can grow your portfolio. I can help you buy awesome properties. If we get into the 20 and 30 range, there's no doubt about it. We're going to get some dogs. We're going to catch one that we thought, analyzed at the very beginning, was a good property, and just for whatever reason, it's not. So sell it off and keep your portfolio strong. Mm-hmm. It's not unusual.
So the second largest hedge fund is Progress Residential, which also goes by FREO Tennessee. When they purchased, they've got over 600 properties. And then the third largest is American Homes for Rent, and they have over 350. So if you're looking at the total number, I mean, it's like 2,000 properties the three largest hedge funds here in Memphis own, with 300,000 parcels across. It's not that many. Like, the percentage is very small. And I guess I thought it would be larger. But I haven't gone through the entire list to figure out everyone that's a hedge fund or what's just a local investor in an LLC and whatnot.
It's not even 1%.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So when everyone's like, well, the hedge funds, they're going to, what's their exit strategy? Or they, and we've talked about this, they're not listing with realtors. They're putting it on websites and selling to other investors. So these probably 2,000 properties are not going to return to our free market with a realtor.
Not anytime soon, I wouldn't think. I mean, not as long as the rent numbers stay as strong as they are.
Right.
American Homes for Rent is one of those big national ones that gets a lot of coverage in the Wall Street Journal and so on, about becoming not just like I was saying before, not just an opportunity on the back of the financial crisis, but trying to turn into an ongoing viable business, for the long term.
Yeah.
And when I look at where they're buying, it's primarily, I think it was Bartlett and Cordova.
Yeah.
The bulk of their properties. Whereas CSMA, they'll buy all over the city. They bought a lot last month in 38115.
Really?
Yeah.
To put a new construction house on, probably.
I don't know.
Yeah, see, that's what a lot of them are doing.
They're going to tear it down and build?
You just said a lot?
No, they bought 5 homes in 381. A lot of homes. They're buying a lot across the city. They buy in Fraser. They buy all over.
Because FREO, I know, I've worked with them on a very limited basis, but they've got very strict criteria.
Right.
It's got to be newer than, I think, 95. It's got to be 3.2. It's got to have a fence. I mean, they can't be under power lines. I mean, they got like a whole criteria.
And do these bigger funds, I won't have to talk about a specific one, do they have people on the ground? Or are they doing this all through agents or through representatives?
They have I know of one agent in DeSoto County that helps them buy. There's one here in Memphis with Crylike that helps them buy. But they have their own people to do their inspections, to do the management part of it. They just recently took the management away from a big real estate company here, and they started on their own. And you get to that point. You get to that point of ownership where you've got so many, it's no longer feasible to hire an outside company. It makes way more sense to come in house with it. Yeah. So boots on the ground here, yes, a ton. I mean, not really, but they've got some of their own eyes. They're not just relying on your local agent trying to earn a real estate commission.
So I'm reminded of The Big Short. The movie The Big Short, where the investor, and it's from the book too. It's a real scene where they go down to Florida to look at some of these properties under mortgages, and the whole neighborhood's for sale, and the sort of famous scene where there's an alligator in the swimming pool, all that. But it was interesting in contrast. I mean, that's where the banks had gotten completely disconnected from what they were investing in.
Yes.
So I suppose it's kind of heartening to hear that these outside companies have some people looking and seeing and knowing what they're in. They're in a rough neighborhood. Maybe a rough neighborhood like parts of Fraser, or a really nice neighborhood, or wherever you are. They're not going into this blind being sold a bill of goods that, these are all great, wonderful American dream kind of homes.
That's what I mean by they're an educated buyer. They're not selling, appreciation. They're not selling something that's not coming here. They know, the buyers, from what I understand, know and are completely aware of, this is a 10-year project, a 20-year thing to develop cash flow. Mm-hmm. And for FREO and for all these companies, they got tenants just paying down these balances, and then there will be a day where they sell, and then you're double. Now you're earning off of your rental income. You had your rental income for 20 years. Now you're selling and just continue to redo it. Yeah.
But you think they'll just sell to other investors who are interested in that same opportunity?
Possibly. Excuse me. Possibly. I don't, because I haven't seen a ton of the sell-off. I don't know who's, I can't really chart who's buying them, but it would make more sense to me to sell them to investors, because they're going to have tenants in them. They're going to be in need of some work, not a ton, but they're going to be, in need of some of it. So I imagine it's going to go from investor to investor.
I mean, these hedge funds have hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in loans on these properties.
Yes, they do.
Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, they are.
The big banks are backing this up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because And I'll tell you why I think it's a different investment. Meaning, if I'm sitting here on $10 million and I want to invest it somewhere, which is shockingly there are just tons of people with that kind of money. If I can put it in something safe like Frio or one of these other companies where they can guarantee me 7 or 8%, meanwhile they're getting, or 6 or 7%, meanwhile they're making 7 or 8. If something happens to my investment, it burns down, there's an earthquake or whatever, I've got homeowners insurance to cover that to get me back. Whereas if I put my money in the market, I don't have any control over what happens there. So it's an easy pitch.
It's funny. I mean, that was the pitch. I'm going to fixate on the Big Short now. That was the pitch back in the day of Wall Street investing in mortgage-backed securities. They were very safe. No one went into default. They were, high credit standards. I mean, there's this perception, which was real for a while, that that's where you would put your money if you couldn't get good yield, but you wanted a really safe investment. You'd invest in big pools of mortgages until those got kind of muddied up. And
that's right.
Slightly less secure than was billed.
That's right.
But I'll be. Go ahead.
No, you're right.
Yeah, I'm curious too, though. If they talk about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and all the kind of tough lending standards that were put in place after the financial crisis, in part drove all this investor activity, right? I mean, it's harder.
Yes.
The realtors out there and the bankers out there will go ballistic when I say this because they say it's just as easy as ever for new homeowners to get in and get, some kind of down payment assistance or whatever. But nonetheless, perception is people feel it's harder to get into homes, harder to get a loan, so they're renting more. If those standards, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau standards and all that come down, does that create more of a market for some of these homes? Is it easier for people? I mean, is there I'm not talking about a sudden shift, but is there a shift back away? Hey, I can make money selling not to another investor, but to a bigger pool of buyers. And we know there isn't a lot of new construction, so this is all going to be about.
It could. That's a possibility. That's a perspective I haven't looked at. Yeah, I mean, extreme possibility. Guys, I'm here in the studio with Eric Barnes, CEO of the Daily News and Chandler Reports, and I've got Wendy Greenlaw. She is the Business Development Manager. We're going to take a real quick break, pay a few bills here, as they say on the radio, and then we'll come back, finish it up. You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on 107.9 FM.
You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on KWAM. We'll be right back after this.
Is it a good time to buy or refi? Is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? Are interest rates going sky high soon? Hi, I'm Ludi Calloway, the mortgage lady at iBank Mortgage. I tell my customers to ask questions, get answers. So join me every Monday morning at 8 and I will tell you what's going on in today's still changing mortgage world. Remember, most people think about mortgages a few times in their lives. I think about them every single day. Tune in Mondays at 8.
Investors or buyers, if you're looking for the best customer service and most competitive rates on a home loan, come to Brighton Bank. They offer a quick approval process, fast closing, and they even finance 85% of purchase price in most cases. At Brighton Bank, they work with every kind of loan, VA, FHA, USDA programs, traditional conventional financing programs, long-term fixed financial, and bridge loans made easy. When it comes to home loans, they mean business. Call them today, 901-758-1740. That's Brighton Bank at 901-758-1740.
Griffin, Clift, Everton, and Mashmeyer, PLLC, is a full-service law firm with over 50 years of experience in the Memphis area. Real estate closings have continued to be the forefront of their law practice, which include residential, commercial, and development real estate transactions, drafting and negotiation of real estate contracts and leases, business information, preparation of wills, probate, and estate planning. Their firm represents a number of builders, developers, investors, and local lending institutions loans and is approved to close transaction for most local banks and mortgage companies. In addition, they offer title search, title examination services, and title insurance through several well-established title insurance companies in the Memphis area, as well as Tennessee and Mississippi. They strive to offer services in a prompt and timely fashion while advising and representing clients in a zealous and professional manner. Should their offered services be of need, please contact William N. Griffin Jr. or any of their attorneys at 901-752-1133. They can also be found online at www.gcemlaw.com or on Facebook.
Now, here's Mid-South weather from News Channel 3's Severe Weather Center. Brought to you by the CrestCore, hosting the people and ideas that moved Memphis forward for nearly 30 years. Poplar and I-240. Call for a free tour at 901-684-1010.
Cloudy and warm this afternoon with highs in the mid-80s and light winds out of the east. Isolated showers can't be ruled out. We're near 70 overnight and into the lower 80s with increasing rain chances as Harvey makes its approach by the end of the week. Smith Imports with more than 125 pre-owned Mercedes, all with remaining factory warranty. Sales, service, great financing rates, low prices, high quality since 1985. SmithImports.com. I'm News Channel 3's Todd Demers on The Voice, FM 107.9 and AM 990.
You're listening to the Memphis Real Estate Hour on KWAM. And now, here's your host, Dean Harris.
All right, welcome back to the Memphis Real Estate Hour. I'm live here in the studio with Eric Barnes. He's the CEO of the Daily News and Chandler Reports. I've got Miss Wendy Greenlaw with Chandler Reports. She is the business development manager there, and we're excited to have them in. Guys, we've been talking about year-to-date home sales. We're seeing dips or not dips in certain areas of town, and we dove into a little bit of the hedge funds and what they're coming in and buying from an investment standpoint. Let's jump into foreclosures. Eric, what do you foreclosures over the last, let's see, this is 17 going into 18. So in, 2009 through 12 or 13, it was like the floodgates had opened. We, at the beginning of the show, Wendy said that, we're slowing way down on those. Talk about foreclosures a little bit. Are they, do you see that picking up? Is there a reason why they're not coming out? I know you've got some knowledge and experience with these.
Yeah, they're at really historic lows, and they continue to fall. That looks like for this quarter they'll be down yet again in terms of the number of foreclosures in Shelby County. It's interesting. I mean, I read about it on a national level and what the trends are. I mean, normally, historically in Tennessee, there's a kind of up and down cycle. If you look back over the last 30 years, about every 4 to 6 years, there's you hit some sort of trough in the level of foreclosures and it begins to build back up, whether that's a full-blown recession or it's just a kind of housing bubble of some sort. We're coming up on, 8-9 years since we've seen any really notable increase. So that's an extreme. And so some people are going to say, well, we're due for some sort of correction, some sort of bump in the foreclosure rate. I think nationally we're at a 10-year low in the foreclosure rate. Mm-hmm. But as we were talking about before with the financial crisis, it's kind of a new world. I mean, it's in some ways harder to foreclose, or more options, or more, the banks are under a lot of pressure to offer options. And then it's such a hot market. Why foreclose? There's some way to get out without going through that whole process of foreclosing on somebody.
All right, so that was a point we made. We were kind of talking about during the break. In prior years, it might have been easier to foreclose on somebody than it has been in the last 4 to 6 years. Now it might be easier again. Do you think, is that kind of what I'm hearing you say? Hey, maybe now they've held on to these bad loans, or maybe not held on, but forced to work with the homeowner in a different way than what they had in the past?
Yeah, and again, that gets back to if there are changes at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I mean, if there's a less regulation, excuse me, if there's less regulation on the banks and maybe not no oversight, but a lot less oversight, maybe they would be quicker to foreclose. Mm-hmm. Tennessee is still, you compared to other states, it's a very easy state to foreclose in. You can do it very quickly compared to, because it's a non-judicial state, you don't have to go through the court system. Mm-hmm. So unlike other states where you get you have to go to a judge. It's a long, multi-year process. Washington State, where I grew up, for instance, it can take years to finish a foreclosure. You can, I know an investor who had somebody, go haywire in a house, and it took years and years and years to get them out. I think New Jersey's a similar way. I think Florida at some point got to be similar.
Boy, down there in DeSoto County, you'd be out in 2 weeks, man.
Right. I mean, it's much more of a southern thing. I mean, these are non-judicial states. You put your notice in the paper, you check off your boxes and so on. And so I think, but there's still, from a Freddie and Fannie point of view and the bank regulators' point of view, there's more oversight as maybe a reaction, some would say an overreaction to the financial crisis. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next year. If it's one thing they could change congressionally and at the federal level, they couldn't get rid of the CFPB without Congress acting. It doesn't seem Congress can do a whole lot, but they can lighten, the pressure. They can make internal changes. And does that push the foreclosure rate up, or do we just get to the point where in the market gets a little too hot, people get too out there? We're not talking about the investors now. We're just talking about individuals. Again, historically, statistically, we're due for some sort of correction. I mean, Wendy's talking about these, from a Memphis point of view, pretty huge increases in price and activity and so on. And we track a little bit in Nashville, and we have a community paper up there, and it's crazy, like crazy expensive, crazy booming. And, the higher you go, the harder you fall. So there's just a lot of speculation about that right now. At some point, is there some sort of correction?
So in my world, foreclosure, more foreclosures is not a bad thing, right? It's a bad thing for our overall economy, if we have a ton of these things, but it's not a bad thing for me, or even for my investors. It just means there's a larger pool of property to choose from. There's less investors in the market because of credit and their own personal issues that maybe the economy has taken them down. So I would welcome some. I don't want to go through 2009 and 10 again. Right. I don't think any of us do, but the inventory here is so low. I mean, if you asked agents, we would do anything for inventory. I mean, so if it's for foreclosures that are coming out, or if it's home builders building anything, comment on that if you can. What on our inventory specifically related to any of that? Do you see any growth? You see anything coming that we don't see? I mean, and if you don't, it's okay to say no. I'm curious of what could be a change. Could foreclosures help change that? I mean, I guess it could if we had that much of them or that many of them come out.
Yeah, I don't see a big change in it. I mean, people have talked about there's a lot of speculation that there was a big wave nationally of second mortgage interest rate resets. It was a huge number because there have been all these 5 and 10 year HELOCs and that had been done that it was expected to kind of push up the foreclosure rate. But what prevented that from particularly hitting the foreclosure rate is the interest rates are so low, people were able to refi into cheaper, loans. And so it just didn't have the big impact that people were feared. They haven't been doing all the, the subprime and Alt A and the stuff that fueled the financial crisis was not just a correction. It was all that bad paper and bad loans and bad credit. And I mean, it was all the things we know. And it seems like that hasn't been happening. I mean, people can point to certain kind of questionable stuff going on.
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting. Again, back to does the regulatory environment change? All kinds of businesses, they can't help but make past mistakes again. And do they, with less oversight, get into making loans, not on necessarily the level of the financial crisis, but some of these non-bank entities, I'm trying not to use any, brand names,
sure,
who, are pushing to make loans. You can get a loan, you can get a loan, you can get a loan. It's easy. You can do it on your phone. That kind of stuff starts to look like, hey, I mean, if you can take out a home loan for $200,000 on your phone in a few minutes, should you be taking out a loan? I mean, should it be that easy to get into a home and make that kind of financial commitment? So you do start to wonder if some amount of the past mistakes will start to get made again, particularly going forward. But
here we go again.
Yeah, but that plays out over time. I don't think it's the kind of thing where people get into a house and immediately miss a payment and go under the way the subprime and Alt A stuff happened. Right. I don't see that happening.
I remember, and I know we're going off, but I remember sitting in a model, and if you had a 535 credit score, you could get a loan.
Yeah.
Builder would pay your closing cost. all you needed to be able to do was float $500 until close. And because of 100% financing, you could even get that back.
Yeah. Well, I remember when we would run numbers in 05, 06, 07, where, you know, the loan to value ratios were, of all the new sales, was 105%, 110% almost in certain zip codes, because people were doing 2 loans at the time mortgage. Not only no money down, less than no money down, because they're immediately taking out a second loan and getting all that money back. And, you know, people were saying, oh, you can use that money to furnish your house. And, you know, I mean, and I remember, I think it was Wendy going through subdivision in Nashville. Somebody was telling me, I remember back in the boom, going through some subdivision in Nashville, saying you could see in these big $300,000 homes that the windows would have sheets over them, because people had gotten so, you know, sort of a BMW in the driveway, sheets over the windows, and a $350,000 house, because they'd gone in 100%. They didn't have the money for the curtains. Jeez. And, you know, I mean, hopefully we don't get back to that kind of.
No, I don't think that's good. When I say I want foreclosures, we want some, but I don't think we want sheets in the window with $300,000 houses. No. Right. Guys, I'm in the studio with Eric Barnes, CEO of the Daily News and Chandler Reports. We've got Wendy Greenlaw. She is the business development manager there. We're sitting here talking about Memphis, our economy, our housing market. Our trivia question, let me give that out real quick. Total number of revenue, what was that up this year? So if you guys are listening, our trivia question is the total number of revenue or total percentage of revenue that we are up in this full year. So I've got it written down here. First one to comment on the Facebook page wins a $100 Visa gift card. Eric, one thing I want to hit before we go, and I know this, the Memphis 3.0. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about your involvement in it and what we can see from that.
We've simply been covering it, and it's one of those things when you say it's a strategic plan for the city, and it's sort of their plan for a 10 or 20 year growth plan, and a certain number of people are going to roll their eyes and say, yeah, that's just a bunch of window dressing and political sort of empty stuff. Plans like this in other cities, some have been that. They're just kind of window dressing. Others have been really effective. And they basically say at a high level, this isn't in a 30-page document put together over many years with a lot of input at the neighborhood level, at the political level, at, from real people. This is a kind of big picture plan of where growth can happen, where it should happen, where transportation should go in. And what kind of neighborhoods we want. You see neighborhoods like Crosstown, that whole area being redeveloped, not just the building itself, but you can, if you're there, and I'm there often, you can see the whole neighborhood transforming very quickly. South Front and South Main, same thing. Mm-hmm. Parts of Fraser, where the Fraser Community Development Corporation went in and said, we're going to target these blocks and make this happen. So if you think about those really effective targeted efforts, Memphis 3.0 is the idea of let's look at the whole city and let's say as a whole where should we be developing and what kind of development should go in. And then the other thing you get into is Memphis as a city is a huge city. It's arguably too big in terms of square miles, and given the population. And so the city is really looking at, the planning processing says, certain areas of the city we won't be developing in because we should be putting our resources in other vibrant neighborhoods and other up-and-coming neighborhoods, other neighborhoods maybe they're struggling a little bit, but with a little help, a little more bus routes, a little more, streetscaping, a little more this or that can really turn the corner. And so I've been, it's a tough process. But you look at the Denver, Nashville, Milwaukee, a couple others that I can think of that had real difficult urban issues of the urban core being, kind of left or abandoned in the 80s or 70s. The plans have really helped, and it's brought people in to the process effectively. It remains to be seen. It's got another year. They've got their first year done of a lot of community meetings and really neighborhood level meetings. And I think it's worth for people who follow real estate, which, you want to know what's going on in that neighborhood, the schools, the access, the jobs. It's worth watching out of the corner of your eye, certainly.
Sure. Is this led by a committee or an individual?
Yeah, it's a group, and I've just forgotten her name, but it's the Housing Community Development and other folks within the city of Memphis who've been empowered to run the whole thing and get input from people.
I think that's great. Dan Butler comes on the show a lot. He's one of our co-founders at CrestCore, and he's involved in a lot of community development programs. He's in one now in 38106. Where I don't know if you guys are aware, I'm sure you are, but that is an extremely dangerous zip code. Not the whole thing, but there's pockets of it that are, on a national level ranked for crime and just poverty and that sort of thing. So he's involved in a bunch of different. There's one in Fraser, like you mentioned. He's involved in this 1-3 at 106, and I couldn't be any more proud of him in that process to try to do something about it. Folks in these communities have no hope. If there's no hope whatsoever, then there's really no chance. So I'm fully supporting if there's something like that for Memphis that we can come in, change our entire community, change our entire thought process. Anything like that is great. What kind of time frame do you think that's on?
It's a 2-year plan, so they're about a year, give or take 2 years. They're about a year in. So there's a whole lot of feedback they've been getting over the last year, and I think they'll publish that and put that out sometime in the next few months.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, you talk about 3 at 106. Yeah, I drove by on the way out here. You drove through Binghamton.
Yeah.
I mean, the amazing things are happening with Broad Avenue and Binghamton and getting a grocery store, and sort of how that can kind of refocus a community that has had some pretty tough times. It's pretty amazing to drive through Binghamton right now. Yeah. Again, so if on a whole global level or like a citywide level, there were those kinds of efforts, it'd be pretty good.
Tell me what's going on lastly here. Tell me about Daily News. Tell me about Chandler Reports. What do the listeners need to know about Chandler Reports and Daily News? I'm familiar with both.
Yeah. So Chandler
companies.
Reports, Chandler Reports have been around since 1968. The Daily News has owned Chandler Reports for more than 10 years. Sort of high quality, detailed, granular level, professional grade real estate information, used by real estate professionals and investors, and again, people just buying or selling a house. Memphis Daily News, primarily through memphisdailynews.com. We're 6 days a week covering business, politics, and everything in between that we find interesting.
Yep.
And also through the Memphis News, our free weekly. And so it's been good. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening from crosstown to downtown to all kinds of business development. So we try to cover all that.
Wendy came and gave our team over at CrestCore a crash course on Chandler Reports, and I was amazed. For all my investors that are listening right now, you can call your local agent and say, hey, shoot me some comps, and they can get on the MLS and try to find certain comps. If we're looking in some of these challenged areas, duplexes, for example, or for whatever reason, historically hard to find comps on, but duplexes and then some of the investment areas, you're not able to find as many comps on there. Wendy comes in, shows us this whole thing, gets me comps for everything I could ask for. So Chandler Reports has been a good asset to CrestCore. It's been a good asset to some of my investors. Tell us how we can get that report or the access to some of those reports.
Sure. So on our website, chandlerreports.com, we have some market trends posted there if you're just interested in activity by zip code or for the county. Or you can contact me, Wendy, at chandlerreports.com. Happy to set you up with a demo of the service and just give you a peek of what we have to offer. We also have our monthly pulse report, recaps all the trends from Memphis and Shelby County for the prior month. So you can sign up for that at chandlerreports.com right on our website. There's no charge. It's complimentary. Anyone can sign up for that.
And then give your email address out again. If you're listening out there and you want to jump on Chandler Reports, you'd like to get a subscription.
Sure. It's Wendy, Wendy, at chandlerreports.com.
I really appreciate you guys coming on. It's educational for me. It's educational for the listeners. We enjoy having you on, once a month or however often you're coming on now. The information that you guys provide for investors is so valuable. I really appreciate, Eric, you coming on today, taking your time out of your day. I know you're a busy guy, but to give us an hour of your time, I appreciate that. Guys, if you've got any questions for Eric, myself, or Wendy, you can post them on the Facebook page, The Memphis Real Estate Hour, and we'll be happy to get back to you on those. At the beginning of the show, I gave out our 6 investment properties, investments of the week. Got a couple of duplexes in there. If you guys have any questions about that, you can email me at dean@crestcore.com. Feel free to comment, ask questions. We're happy to help in any way that we can. So I appreciate you guys listening this morning. You caught the Memphis Real Estate Hour on 107.9 FM, The Voice.